And a good Tuesday evening to you, meteorologist Dan Skeldon, 7:30 on this, I guess what, second to last Tuesday in February. Next Tuesday will be the final day of meteorological winter, the winter that wasn't, sprinter, if you will. So it's been spring-like much of the winter. Even today, there were some thunderstorms, there were some rainbows. There was a tornado warning in central New Jersey around Mercer County. And tornado warnings are pretty rare throughout the year, especially in the middle of winter. It's been a wacky winter where thunderstorms are more common than snow. And while there's no more thunderstorms in your 7-day forecast, there's no snow either. It's just been one of the crazier winters or lack of that I remember. There's been a lack of coastal storms. There's been a lack of tidal flooding, which we've talked about as well as we bring in our co-host for Tidal Flooding Talk, Palma Shiles. Palma, good Tuesday evening to you.
Hi, how you doing, Dan?
Good. How are you? This, another spring-like day. Yesterday it was 60s. Today we had thunder, lightning, some hail, depending on where you were in New Jersey and Delaware and Pennsylvania. There was a possible tornado up near Trenton. All stuff you associate with spring and summer, not winter. It's been a crazy season, and I don't see that changing. On Thursday this week, it may actually get into the 70s.
Now, how do you explain something like that for February weather?
I mean, you can do it on occasion in February, but we've had warmth all winter. I mean, cold has been lacking. A lot of people enjoying the snowless winter, lack of coastal storms, lack of flooding. Obviously you don't want tidal flooding. A lot of people don't want snow. Of course, you don't want severe weather and tornadoes any time of the year either. It's been a crazy winter where parts of the country have had a crazy winter, like a bad winter. You had all those storms out in California. The upper Midwest is getting a lot of snow. Minneapolis is going to get like 1 to 2 feet. I mean, a big storm even for them. So there are parts of the country that have had winter, but the Northeast has not. And again, not going to change. It's going to be a little chillier tomorrow. It's going to be a little colder Friday, Saturday, but still, I see 0 coastal storms, 0 chance of snow, and therefore also no tidal flooding in the immediate forecast either. And that's, I guess, a good thing of this quiet pattern.
Right, and do you think it's typical for if, one side of the country is having a crazier winter for the other to be more mild?
It is. I mean, United States is a big place, right? I mean, how much of it have you traveled? Have you been to the West Coast?
I have.
You have, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it, 3,000 miles across? So very seldom California's weather is not the same as New Jersey's weather or North Carolina's weather. In fact, oftentimes it's kind of divided where the West is doing one thing, the East will do something else. When the West is warm, the East is cold. When the West is nice and dry, the East is stormy. So it's not a surprise that, the winter is not even across the country. Some spots have been very, cold and stormy. Some have been very wet. Some have been very dry. It's just the Northeast, basically from Boston to DC, where we've had one of the warmest Januaries on record. We still got a week left, but one of the warmest Februaries on record, and one of the least snowy winters ever on record. So all pretty impressive records. Again, depressing for snow lovers, but if you don't like winter, we're almost through it. Spring begins in March. March can be a fickle month. We'll talk about it. And winter, there is some cold trying to come down in early March. I don't know if it's going to succeed or not, though, because every time we try to change this pattern, it never does. I mean, all winter long, that's been the case. 7 days out, it looks, all right, next week, we're finally going to get a winter storm. 7 days later, it's nothing. So I'll believe it when I see it. But we are almost through one of the easiest winters in our lifetimes.
But just because it's going to be possibly in the 70s on Thursday, we shouldn't put our winter coat away yet, right?
No, because March can be so fickle. Now, if we get winter weather in March, it doesn't last. It warms up pretty quickly. If you get snow in January or a winter storm, it can hang around a while. March, you can get a winter storm. I think it was 2014. We had a a big St. Patty's Day snowstorm. People dyed the snow green and, made green snowmen and things like that. We had a snowstorm on the first day of spring one year in the 2010s. So you can get winter storms in March. And tidal flooding can be pretty severe in March as well. The Ash Wednesday storm of tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. The Ash Wednesday storm of 62, the 62 nor'easter. Epic March storm with major tidal flooding. So March is the heart of nor'easter season, and we really haven't had a full-fledged nor'easter this year. So a little refresher on what they are. We're still in the middle of the season. You can get them in April. In a bad year, you can even get them in May. Although March is the last prime month of nor'easter season.
Now, when does nor'easter season begin?
And I say that. And you asked the question, and I said it too. There's no, on hurricane season, it's June 1st to November 30th. They're very set days. There is actually a season. Nor'easter season is a little more informal. There's no official season.
But March is the prime time for nor'easter?
March is the end of the prime time. So nor'easters can occur as early as October, as late as May. The prime time is like, mid-November to late March. So and I'd say the peak time is December, January, February, March, if I had to. So we're coming up on the final month of the prime time of nor'easter season. So, we can never let our guard down. And, nor'easters are powerful storms and memorable storms, some more than others. Some winters you get 4 or 5 of them. Some winters you get 0. Just like hurricanes, hurricanes in the Atlantic. Some seasons is 20 of them. Some seasons there's like 4 of them. So nor'easter season and hurricane season have some similarities, and they have some differences as well.
Well, how do they differ from tropical storms?
Well, nor'easters aren't as strong as most hurricanes. Hurricanes winds can get 70, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. Most nor'easters aren't going to get that strong. But what they lack in intensity. So hurricanes are stronger, but also hurricanes hit hard and leave. They don't linger. So Sandy hit hard for a day, day and a half, and left. Nor'easters can hit for day after day after day. Sometimes, 2 or 3 days are the worst nor'easters. So, hurricanes are more intense. Nor'easters are longer lasting. That's the big difference between the two. And that Ash Wednesday storm of 62, that 5 high storm, we call it 5 high because there were 5 straight high tides where there was major tidal flooding. You don't get that in a hurricane. So nor'easters, may not have the name. We name hurricanes. We don't name nor'easters. Nor'easters may not have the hurricane force winds, although a couple have, but they will definitely pack a punch because they wear you down day after day after day sometimes.
Now, I know we went over this before, but would you support naming nor'easters?
Well, I put in a petition to name one Palma. I haven't done anything. Yeah, I don't like naming them. Some people do, some people don't. You give something a name, it's more memorable. It's easier to refer to. But you kind of need a universal system on naming them. Right now, only the Weather Channel names them. So, that's why some people call Jonas Jonas from back in 2016. Others call it the January of 2016 nor'easter. Others don't call it anything. So, you need a universal, widely accepted by everybody naming structure for nor'easters. So there's no official nor'easter season. There's no official nor'easter names. But if you ask me, the threat for nor'easters causing flooding, causing, beach erosion, it can be just as severe as that of a hurricane, even though they aren't as sexy, if you will.
Now, is there always some form of flooding with nor'easters?
But not usually there is, because it's a northeast wind. Winds come up the coast, and usually it's a northeast wind. Usually there's rain or snow. It can be minor nuisance stuff if the moon's not right or the wind isn't that strong. It can be moderate to major. It can be days upon days. It depends on how strong it is, where it's tracking, what the moon phase and what the tides are doing. So, but most times when you mention nor'easter, if you live along the coast and you say, here a nor'easter's coming, you're automatically going to think tidal flooding, or you should, because most nor'easters bring tidal flooding. In fact, it's probably the most common system to bring tidal flooding. You know, is a nor'easter, is a coastal storm. That's the type of storm that more often than not will bring us tidal flooding.
Now, what other type of hazards does a nor'easter bring, especially in this area?
The typical, you know, tidal flooding, wind, heavy rain, beach erosion, heavy surf. And then also if it's winter, you know, you can get heavy snow out of it as well. So, you know, on the barrier islands, it's the tidal flooding, it's the wind, it's the beach erosion that are usually the biggest concerns from nor'easters. And again, it's something we've had a lack of nor'easters on the East Coast this year. We've had rain, we've had storms. January was kind of wet. February hasn't been, but they have not been from nor'easters. So a lot of the storms have been going up into the Great Lakes. We're on the warmer side of it. That's why we get thunder and lightning and downpours like a springtime type storm. But with the storms up in the Great Lakes, you know, no nor'easters then. All the winter weather, all the bad weather, the worst weather is up in the Great Lakes. So it's been a very strange winter. You know, no cold. I mean, and I say no cold. There's been a couple of cold shots, but no significant cold, no snow hardly at all, and no coastal storms. A very unusual winter. Partly due to La Nina, which is breaking down now. Next year, we may go to El Nino. That's usually a little more favorable for nor'easters and a little more favorable for winter weather. So we'll see. You know, El Nino, La Nina, something we can always talk about another show. It's something that goes on way over in the Pacific Ocean, you know, between South America and Australia. But what is going on in the Pacific Ocean, thousands and thousands of miles away, is a large part of why we're seeing what we're seeing this winter.
Now, is there a connection between having this, you know, mild temperature with also having not really any nor'easters?
There is, yeah. Nor'easters like when you have cold and warm air clashing. You know, that's when like the good storms form. We haven't had cold and warm air clashing. We've had mild and mild air, you know, just mixing together. So you don't have the cold and hot air clashing. So you don't have the storm track on the coast. So yeah, they are kind of connected. When you have mild winters, you know, they can be wet. You can get storms, but usually they're not strong coastal storms because you don't have that big clash between warm and cold air. And we do have some up and down temperatures over the next 7 days. So tomorrow is down, Thursday's way up, Friday, Saturday come down. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're back up again. So we are going to have that back and forth. And March is known for the up and down temperatures. But we all know this winter, it's been like 6 days of up, 1 day of down. And I don't really see that changing over the next 7 to 10 days either.
But no nor'easters and no tidal flooding in this forecast,
Nope.
right?
Nope. And that's basically been every single tidal flooding talk we've had since November. I basically said that. You know, we had that tidal flooding around Christmas, and then we had one in January. But yeah, no coastal storms, no winter storms. It's just kind of what you see is what you get. Again, there is weather to talk about. There was a possible tornado in Mercer County today. That's very unusual. There's just not the typical winter. There's nothing typical about this winter. This is one of the weirdest winters on the East Coast that I can remember. There's been weather. But there has not been the typical winter weather we normally see, the typical temperatures we see. You know, next Tuesday will be February 28th. We'll have another tidal flooding talk. And again, we're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. So 7:30 next Tuesday, we'll look ahead into March and we'll see if March is going to be fickle and is winter going to have, you know, a last stand or maybe a first and last stand, if you will, or is it just going to be an early spring? You know, and the groundhog will be wrong. We will see. But next Tuesday, we'll look ahead to what March may bring.
Okay. And we're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. Like Dan said, we're here every Tuesday around 7:30, and we'll talk tidal flooding.
All right. We will have a wonderful night. Enjoy the 70s. If you get into the 70s on Thursday, enjoy them. That's a nice treat, a little early spring taste. And we'll see. I'm sure more will be coming, but this upcoming Thursday is your next chance for some warm weather.
All right.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
Dan.